At first glance, the story of 50-year-old Kelly Coppola and 53-year-old Kenneth "Kenny" Pullman looked like a perfect second chance. Two people who had faced heartbreak and loss found joy again in each other's arms. They weren't just rebuilding their lives. They were creating something new, a loving home where their children could heal and grow together. But in the shadows of that happiness, an evil force was already writing the blueprint for their destruction. A force that believed Kelly had no right to move on. Kelly Jean Coppola grew up on Long Island, New York, in a close-knit family. Her parents, John and Karen, adored her, and she was what her family lovingly called the ultimate daddy's girl. Her brother's wife, Lori Patton, remembered Kelly as someone who could light up any room. She was beautiful, fun, and full of life, Lori said. Kelly cared deeply about people. She remembered birthdays, stayed in touch with friends, and never missed an event that mattered to her family. She was that rare person who made everyone around her feel special. Kelly attended Sachem High School, where she was active, outgoing, and always surrounded by friends. After graduation, she followed a familiar path. She fell in love, got married, and started a family. She and her husband, Daniel Coppola, welcomed a daughter named Gianna, who quickly became Kelly's entire world. Kelly worked in accounting at a media company, managing her job while raising her daughter with devotion. She was at every cheer competition, every school event, and every milestone in Gianna's life. Her goal was simple: to give her daughter the happiest life possible. But behind closed doors, life wasn't as perfect as it appeared. Kelly's marriage was deeply troubled. Friends and relatives later revealed that Daniel was controlling and abusive. Though there was only one officially documented domestic incident, her family knew the pain ran much deeper. Kelly eventually found the courage to leave. The divorce, finalized around 2022 or 2023, was bitter and painful. Daniel blamed Kelly for everything, for the loss of his family, his money, and his pride. The resentment that grew inside him was toxic, but Kelly didn't let it hold her back. She began to heal, to smile again, to live again. Meanwhile, Kenny Pullman had his own story of resilience. The oldest of 4 siblings, he was remembered by his brother Tommy as a kind, joyful man who loved life and people. "If you knew Kenny, you loved him," Tommy said. Kenny had a successful career in IT sales, working for nearly 2 decades at Converge Technology Group. But beyond his career, his identity was shaped by family. He had married young, and he and his wife Kim had 2 children, Brianna and Tyler. Their life together was filled with love until tragedy struck. In 2007, Kim was diagnosed with a rare cancer and passed away after a difficult battle. Kenny was devastated, but channeled his grief into raising his children and creating the Pullman Foundation to fund cancer research in Kim's memory. Kenny eventually remarried and welcomed a 3rd child, Jenna, but that marriage also ended. By 2023, he was once again a single father, devoted to his 3 kids and finding new meaning in life. That's when he met Kelly. Their connection was instant and undeniable. Both had endured unimaginable pain. Both were parents trying to create stability for their children. Together, they found peace. Kelly's family said she hadn't been this happy in years. Kenny's father called them soulmates. They weren't just a couple. They were 2 families merging into one. They moved into a beautiful $1.1 million home on Brasswood Road in St. James, New York, a 6-bedroom house that symbolized a new beginning. Kenny's kids, Brianna, 25, Tyler, 21, and Jenna, 14, grew close to Kelly and her daughter, Gianna, 15. There were dinners, vacations, birthdays, and laughter filling the home. For Kelly's 50th birthday in June 2024, Kenny threw her a surprise party. Family members said she had never looked happier. But one person couldn't stand it: her ex-husband, Daniel Coppola. From the moment he learned Kelly had moved on, he became consumed by jealousy and hatred. He texted, threatened, and obsessed over her new relationship. Kenny's family said they'd been aware Daniel was bitter, but they couldn't imagine how far he would go. On the night of August 28, 2024, Daniel put his horrifying plan into action. That evening, he picked up his daughter Gianna and began driving erratically. He was angry, unhinged, and frightening. Scared for her safety, Gianna asked him to take her home, to the house she shared with her mother and Kenny. Daniel agreed, but his intentions were far darker than she realized. At 11:30 p.m., Daniel texted his 15-year-old daughter Gianna, asking for details about Kenny's bedroom, then told her to meet him outside. She obeyed, unaware her father was about to commit a horrific crime. Daniel crept to the house, shot through the front door, and stormed inside. Within minutes, Kelly and Kenny were dead, killed as they slept. In his rush to escape, Daniel lost a sandal, later found under Kenny's body, showing Kenny had fought to protect Kelly. When Daniel returned to the car, he turned to Gianna and said coldly, "I killed your mother and Kenny." Terrified, she texted her friends in panic, unsure what had happened. At 11:45 p.m., she called 911, saying her father was threatening suicide. Police arrested Daniel soon after, finding a black semi-automatic handgun he'd hidden. Inside the Brasswood Road home, officers discovered the devastating aftermath. The next morning, detectives found notes and computer files detailing Daniel's plan, written calmly with phrases like, "I am of sound mind." Even worse, he'd labeled bullets with the names of everyone he blamed for his divorce: Kelly, Kenny, and multiple lawyers. Prosecutors later revealed Daniel's intention wasn't just revenge, it was a planned massacre. District Attorney Raymond Tierney called it a premeditated ambush and execution. Daniel was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, later upgraded to 4 counts of first-degree murder after investigators reviewed the extensive evidence. If convicted, he faces life in prison without parole. During his first court appearance on August 30th, Daniel pleaded not guilty, appearing emotionless as the victims' families filled the courtroom. One person shouted "murderer" as he was led away. Kelly's father, John Patton, said the family's grief was overwhelming, their pain beyond words. Not long after his arrest, Daniel attempted suicide in jail, causing a spinal injury that left him hospitalized. Even then, prosecutors pushed forward, determined that justice would not be delayed. The Long Island community responded with compassion and heartbreak. Kenny's company launched a GoFundMe called Kenny's Kids to support his 3 children, raising more than $148,000. Another fund, Support Gianna, after tragic loss, was created to help Kelly's daughter, raising $96,000 in less than a week. Memorial services for the couple were packed with mourners. Kenny's service at St. Elizabeth of Hungary Church was filled with stories of his warmth and kindness. Kelly's wake at Mullins Holbrook Funeral Home was a sea of flowers, photos, and tears. Friends said she would be remembered for her radiant smile and the love she gave so freely. Kenny's brother, Tommy, said they refused to let a murderer define their family's story. "We are not going to let a heinous act overshadow the life and legacy of my brother," he said. "His kids will be cared for." His love will live on for Gianna. The trauma is unimaginable, used by her father, witnessing the aftermath and losing her mother in the most violent way possible. She now lives with family, surrounded by a community determined to help her heal. The tragedy of Kelly and Kenny is a story of love found, love lost, and a cruel act of vengeance that shattered two families. Yet, even through the horror, their bond remains the lasting image. Two people who fought through pain to find joy again. As one eulogy said, they died in love. And that love, no matter how brief, was the most beautiful thing they built together. Kenny's brother ended his tribute with quiet emotion. We had Kenny in our lives for 53 years, 7 months, 17 days, 14 hours, and 29 minutes. Every second of it was a gift.